Oh, wow.
I'm like, and it can
Had to cut.
I think a lot of people do struggle to talk about sex because people are worried that they're not normal. There is also, especially in porn, a big focus on male pleasure.
Yeah.
She was like sketching vagina and clitoris, and then she was just like, yeah, so this is what you need to do. It makes it more pleasurable for the partner. And I just froze up.
Mama always said, be careful of those island boys.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Rumbi.
Welcome to It's Layered Podcast.
We are under the Black Cast Network, powered by iHeart, and we're recording in studio today in Melbourne.
Yes, at Bittersweet Studios, and our beautiful setup. We're still going with our soft girl era, done by Pink Lady Picnics.
Yeah.
Today is a special episode, don't you reckon, Rumbi?
I really think it's a long overdue episode. I mean, we're 6 seasons in, right?
Yes.
And we have not talked about this topic
We've heard you.
at all. Yes.
We've heard you. Further requests. We've heard the... And finally, today we're going to delve deeper into sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. I had to.
For our special guest, Laura Miano, if you don't know, Rumbi loves to go into song.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
just
I love it,
just
yes.
roll with her when she does. But Laura is an experienced sex therapist and educator. She's passionate about breaking down sexual stigmas and opening conversations that foster deeper learning of one's own sexuality and desires. Her approach to sex therapy is empathetic, trauma-informed, and person-centered.
Laura founded Miano Clinical Sexology, but her work also spans the sexual wellness space. She co-founded Melbourne-based sexual wellness brand Posmo. Laura uses Posmo as a platform to empower people to embrace their unique experience of sexuality. So we are so thrilled that you could be here with us, Laura. I think for us it was really important to have a sexual therapist so that we can have a really meaningful conversation around it, have some fun, and learn a little bit about your work so that we can destigmatize the conversations around sex. So
Definitely.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay.
How would you describe the work that you do and how you got into it?
Oh, how I got into it. I think from a young age, I always felt quite comfortable talking about sex. My mum would always kind of make little cheeky jokes about sex, and it was something that behind closed doors, it was always safe to talk about. There was a safe space. But when I was in high school, I really loved hip hop music and R&B, and a lot of it can be quite sexual.
Very.
1000%.
Yeah. And Lil' Kim was actually a big inspiration.
Queen Bee, yeah.
With the like nipple covers, do you remember those?
Yeah, I
oh
remember
God.
that. Queen Bee, Little Kim, yeah.
And I remember her music was all about sexual empowerment, especially for women.
Yes.
And I really loved it. I feel like she had a really great message. And yeah, from a young age, it just made me really inspired to push a similar message that women can own their sexuality and advocate for it. And it's just as important as everyone else's.
Yeah, that's really, really great. And I think you mentioned something, your mom was your safe space and she created a safe environment. And I think a lot of us, we didn't have that. At least I never had that growing up. Which then brings the question, and I guess I'm kind of alluding to it, but I'd love to hear from your perspective, why you think sex is so often difficult to talk about, and it's a difficult topic for discussing with friends or family in some households.
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly, we kind of tell people it's not okay to talk about sex. You know, when one person tries to talk about sex, whether it's at home or with friends or at school, people are often met with a bit of a shutdown because it makes the other person uncomfortable.
Yes.
So we're really just never taught the skills to be able to talk about sex. But it is interesting because what I've found in my therapy sessions is because it becomes such a safe, open space to talk about sex, the moment you actually provide that for people, they pick up on the skill really quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like this.
Yeah, that safe space is never really offered in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. 'Cause I think like even amongst friends, we like people don't know about, like, I mean, we, in my friendship group, we have this thing we call Kuzi's Corner. Shout out to you, Kuzi. And he, like, loves to ask people, like, what they're going through. And a lot of it ends up being sexual. Even just, like, how often are people having sex in a week? Like, what's the norm, I suppose?
Yes.
And you can tell, even in that, we can share about everything and anything else. But when it comes to that, people kind of almost shut down, or we need liquid courage to go there.
Yes.
It's just so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I ask if you could give us like an idea of how to, the skill, or what kind of skill is required, or how to talk about it better? You know, we understand like a safe space, so feeling comfortable as you know, in your friendship group, but like, how do we go into it, you know, as like bringing it up? Because I'm like, how do I even start? Like,
Yeah,
I'm like,
how do you
Yeah,
ask?
how do you ask?
Yeah, I guess it could start with you being open about your own sex life and
Got
kind of
you.
setting that standard. I think a lot of people do struggle to talk about sex because people are worried that they're not normal, but everyone is so varied and so different. So, yeah, just opening up about your experiences and also appreciating that it is normal because everyone's experience is normal.
Yeah, like what is normal? Yeah,
Okay,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. If there's one misconception or one myth you want to debunk today about sex, what is it and why?
Ooh, what is it and why? Okay, well, I'd say one myth would be that I guess sex needs to follow like a kind of formula. I think people don't outwardly say that. You know, people don't outwardly say it needs to follow a formula, but people internalize that a lot from cultural messages, from porn, from movies. And yeah, there's this idea that it needs to start with certain amount of kissing, certain amount of foreplay, penetration.
Okay.
If it's
Like that's the order of
heterosexual.
things, like
Yeah.
entree, main, dessert.
Yeah. And there's this myth, I guess, that it needs to look like that, but it's really so varied.
You're so right? Because even as I think about how I approach it, it is like that, like a bit of foreplay, then a bit of like
Yes.
penetrative, like it's always just that like order you've seen.
Yeah.
Or even knowing that like penetrative sex is not the only sex.
Yes.
I think especially for
Yes.
women, we are always told like, oh, just make the guy come and then
Yeah.
that's your
That's
job
it,
done.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there's so many different, like, you know, even if you're on your period or whatever, you don't feel like having penetrative sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can still be intimate with your
Yes.
partner. I think that's
Absolutely.
something that we're just not told enough.
Yeah.
For sure. I think for me, it's that sex was never about me, if that makes sense. There was never like a conversation around, you're supposed to get pleasure from this. It's, you also supposed to really enjoy it. It kind of is just like, okay, this is how you pleasure your husband. So we've
Yeah.
had this conversation with Amanda, how when I was younger, now I'm putting my people on blast, where my mom, I think I was about to go to university, and then she just called me into her room, and she's like, Rumbi, bring me a paper and a pen. So I like gave her, and then she was like sketching vagina and clitoris, and then she was just like, yeah, so this is what you need to do, and then you, it makes it more pleasurable for the partner. And I just froze up because I was like, we have never talked
Yeah,
about sex. Like,
we've
ever.
gone such a hard
went-
left
It
turn
went
here.
from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh yeah, let your sister know. And I was just like, say what now?
Yeah.
But even in that, it wasn't so much about me. It was more about how to make sure I'm pleasing someone.
Yeah, it's very male-centered,
Yeah.
it feels.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where we kind of go wrong because sex is such a complementary process. The more that you get turned on, the more it turns them on. And that's when it's a really, really connected experience. But when it's more so about you just touching them in the right way that makes them feel good and not really focusing on what brings you pleasure, you're actually, I would say it's not going to lead to the best kind of sex.
I agree.
Yeah.
And if you feel good about yourself and are really, you feel sexy, you feel confident, I find that is the best sex. Like when
Absolutely.
you really like feel so good, and yeah.
And relaxed.
Relaxed.
And,
Yeah.
Why do you think it is that way, though, that it is male-centered? Do you think it is due to porn? Because sometimes I feel like even, like we might think, okay, you're being a bit of a selfish lover, but even the guy thinks, oh, this is the way. Like I feel like the miseducation is on
Yeah.
both ends. Even
Yeah.
if your partner
Yeah.
is trying to be generous, they might not have the roadmap on how to be. But what are we missing there to not get all those skills?
Well, yeah, I think the sources of education for sex are, porn and movies. And they don't really go into all of the details of it and the reality of what it can look like, how it is so varied. But there is also, especially in porn, a big focus on male pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And the way that someone would stimulate a woman to get her to orgasm is usually not the reality. You know,
Yeah.
like in porn, it happens really quickly.
Yeah.
And there's just this misinformation around what women's bodies need to reach climax.
Yeah. I remember, like, even in biology, all the boys would be like, huh? Like when the vagina is being shown, and they're like, even till this day, I think boys still have to wrap their heads around what a vagina actually like looks like.
Yeah, it's very true.
So then for them to be able to pleasure it, it's like, but do you find us women also might not know how to pleasure ourselves,
I
like
was going to
masturbation?
say, I was
How
gonna
does
say.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is on both ends. Both
Yeah.
people are kind of misinformed and uneducated around female pleasure.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when I see clients, especially when there's maybe mismatched desire in a relationship, when the man wants it more than the woman, a lot of times it will be that the woman isn't aware of what she wants.
Yeah.
Or she might be kind of aware of it and then maybe ask him for it, but because it might not seem similar to the porn or like the movie kind of sex, both of them will actually disqualify it, the man and the woman. They'll both kind of just not put too much focus on it because she'll think, oh, maybe it's, a bit left of center.
And you're so right about asking for what you want. And because I think, again, maybe male-centric, maybe also as women, we are raised to put our needs in the back burner in a lot of ways, like in society.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, if I ask for this, but learning to articulate that actually I prefer it this way, or this is where my spot is, or, things like that.
Yeah.
I would, if you don't mind, would love for you to, if you were to speak to women, someone who's trying to get past all these stigmas that were in myths we're talking about, from I'll say from a female perspective for now. How do you think we can start to really embrace our sexuality and kind of get to learn ourselves better? Like, if you could say, like, top 3 steps
like
or
steps to
things
take,
for that, because I think it's like, where do you start, right? If we're not having these conversations, all we rely on is TV, maybe porn, maybe if we even have a conversation with a friend, like, where do we begin? So since you're here, we'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I guess how I would help a client with that kind of thing is I would get them to observe, just be an observer during sexual experiences for a little while, and just notice times during sex when they want to do something but they don't do it, when they do something but they don't really feel like doing it, and just kind of observe how they're behaving versus how they're feeling, and how much their partner, is intertwined in that process as well, or sexual partner. And then I would ask them, if you were to act on some of these things that you want to do or you don't want to do, what kind of thoughts come up that make it more challenging to do that? Like, it could be a body image thing. It could be that they think their sexual partner is going to think they're being too much. It could be that they don't want to be viewed as too sexual. Yeah. So everyone's experience with why they hold back will be kind of different. So kind of pinpointing what barrier holds you back from asserting what you need can be a really good point. And then you can kind of pinpoint that barrier and then work on that
barrier
specifically.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I think for us, a lot of times, especially coming from Zimbabwe, it's religion.
Yeah.
So just to give you context, our background, for generalizing most people, it's very religious, and then the messaging is abstain.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, and obviously that's because it's like, oh, you're meant to be a virgin when you get married. And then thus that means there is no there's no talk on sexual desire. It's all saved for when you get married.
Okay.
Which, each to their own. But then the thing is, even after you get married, we're not even provided with the tools. We have these things. I mean, today we're having some high tea, but we have these things called kitchen tea in Zimbabwe. And like your aunts come, and then all of a sudden, this aunt you've never talked to about anything sexual is imparting all her sexual wisdom
about the
And
man.
you know, I mean, obviously sometimes it is comical, it's humor filled, but at the same time it's quite sad that we save up all this to then finally tell you. So it's a lot of information coming in at once. At the same time, like porn itself is illegal in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
So it's like all these things are like cloak and dagger and hidden. And it makes it so hard because I feel like sex is meant to be so open. But why do you think that disconnect between sex being such an open thing and the way the world operates and makes it such a closeted thing? Like, why do you think there's that disconnect there?
Yeah, I guess one could be like the history of religion, which has kind of traditionally said to abstain and kind of not really explore. Yeah, they've kind of promoted the idea of not exploring sexuality until it's within a marriage. But then, when you're in that marriage, there isn't much information.
It's the wildest
It's
thing.
weird.
I'm just like, huh? And for us, I think you grew up being told no boys because when I was young, and this is the thing of things being kept under wraps and in secret. I had, family members, cousins who fell pregnant, teenage pregnancies, early pregnancies, but it was like no one was telling us about like safe sex truly and all these things. So it's like the consequences of just not talking about it. And then I remember having a family meeting and my dad saying, this is what happens when you have sex. Girls don't have sex, boys wear a condom. I'll never forget that statement. And I just remember I was like, huh? Like, make it make sense. But that's normal. That was normal and how we were brought up. So
it's like if you bring a pregnancy in this household, it's a huge problem. But the guy can go and make someone else pregnant. Like it's like, but that's someone else's daughter too. It's such a weird.
Really
And if you're just told to abstain, then when you get in that situation, you really have no information on how to manage it.
And I'm sorry, abstaining, especially in high school, and that's when I met Rimbi, you have all these sexual desires coming up. Puberty starts, and you're like, oh my gosh, my boobs are growing, and when I touch my nipples, they're so sensitive. But it's like, oh, what do I do?
And we were reading Mills
that
and
feeling, you're like
and you're
reading
like
romance
secretly
novels.
getting like, oh my gosh, it's like, I can't be feeling this way reading
That
this
is
book.
so right. Actually, in high school, sometimes we would have one novel and then it would go around the whole. So we were all getting like our education from whoever the author was. You know, shout out to Judith McNaught or other authors out there, because it really was just like our only gateway to finding out and knowing about sex.
Exactly. But now I want us to get a little bit more into you and Posmo. How and why did you come up with your sex concept store, and like what led to that? Because like this is so exciting for me. I was like, bring the notepad, like let us know. But how did that journey come about, and why was it important for you to start that, and not just say, okay, you can just go to whichever store? So if you could tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it started when I was studying my master's to become a sexologist, and I was reading a lot on this theory called postmodern sexuality, where it kind of talks about how, I mean, it's a bit of a radical theory, but they say that they don't think people should have sexual orientations because it categorizes people. Again, it's very radical, so it's not that... it's can't really be applied to everything, but I really like just the way that they say that everyone's sexuality is so complex. So to put it into a category is kind of simplifying it. It also leads to like disadvantage as well, because, people will make assumptions based on, who someone is, based on the gender that they're attracted to. So I really liked this theory, and I wanted to create a store that was founded on that. I also have a history, like a background in fashion. So I wanted to create a sex toy store that applied similar kind of aesthetic principles to the sexual wellness space and make it really pretty and rather than seedy.
Pretty life,
Love that.
Yeah.
And like, what would be a starter? Like if I walked in or contacted you and said, I'm looking to get some toys. Okay, look, clearly
or went on your store website.
What would your recommendation be? And I would love for you to also talk about it in the context of sometimes I think we feel if you are in a committed partnership, you don't need any toys, or it's like the person is supposed to be your full pleasure.
Enough, yeah.
Which I don't agree with. But like, so like, please talk us through that. Like, what would your recommendation be? Like, when you walk in, like, what are you looking for? I mean, obviously everyone's different, but like how to start or what to look
P.S. Can I just say how excited Wimby looks right now?
This is great.
Yeah, she is.
We've been waiting. That's all I'm saying.
We're like keenly listening, but not, but we are.
Yeah, I guess I would ask what kind of stimulation
Yes.
you like. Do you prefer internal? Do you prefer external? So vaginal, clitoral, labia, you know, like on the lips of the vulva. Do you prefer double penetration? Sorry, not double, dual stimulation, where it's internal and external. There's also anal stimulation too, full body stimulation. So I would ask of those things what you prefer. And then based on that, you know, do you like quite strong stimulation or something more gentle? Because that could vary with the kinds of vibrations that a toy can give. Some toys don't vibrate at all. They're glass or metal toys. We have a few that don't have any vibrations, but they feel really nice with like a silicone lube. So it's not as overpowering as a vibrator, but it still is like this external tool to your hands. I guess that's where I would start.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, and it
Had to cut.
literally. And yeah, I think, you know, to that point, if you could just elaborate on, you know, how it can enhance sexual experiences with partners as well as an individual,
Solo.
pleasuring yourself. If maybe you can just talk on that, because I don't think we hear that enough.
Well, I mean, some partners will be concerned that a vibrator or a sex toy will replace them.
Yes.
But during sex, a person can touch you in lots of different places that you're not expecting. They can kiss you. They can look into your eyes.
Yeah.
They can moan and you can hear that. You can touch their hair. You can touch their skin. You can feel their skin on your skin. They can do so many different things that simply one toy, as much as I am an advocate for sex toys just can't have that same kind of experience.
True.
So it's definitely an additional tool, but in no way can it replace the human experience of another person.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And speaking on human experience, and I know we're talking more from a heterosexual lens, but I've noticed, and I don't know what you've noticed in your experience, do you reckon our sexuality changes we've seen some celebrities who start maybe in a heterosexual union and then now maybe they're in not, like, and it's like, oh, and I feel like humans always try to box people. Like, it's like, oh, you're straight, oh, you're a lesbian, oh, but what's your idea in and around sexuality? And it's evolving.
Yeah, that's very much what postmodern sexuality also talks about, that it's very fluid and it will, you know, it can be representative of what's kind of happening in your life, the broader context. There was some research done in the 60s, I think it was, where they found, I can't remember the exact stats, but they found that it's quite common for people to have their real life sexual experiences not match what their sexuality, the gender that they identify with in terms of sexuality, not align. So they might be straight but have gay experiences or same-sex experiences. So that's why I really loved this theory. And that's why I wanted to create this store that kind of...
definitely.
it brought everyone together rather than having something that just targeted one person.
Because there's some people you just meet and the sexual energy is there and you're like, wait, hang on. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, some people exude sexual, like, energy and you're like... Why am I attracted to you right now? Like,
for sure.
You know, but like, you're not, maybe typically you think that's not quote unquote your type. And I just find that always so fascinating. So I think if we let go of all the labels and all the boxes, I really wonder how we would be in our sexual journeys.
There'd be far less restrictions.
Are there any other upcoming projects you have this year or anything you want to share with us, things we should watch out? Because obviously we're going to share your socials. We're going to share Posmo. People can find you. Is there anything else you'd want us to keep an eye out for?
Well, I've just launched my practice, my sex therapy practice. So I'm planning to push a lot of kind of sexual education through there. I'll be releasing a course this month, in January, on sexual exploration through sensuality, so like through the senses.
Oh, wow.
So, sight, sound, touch,
Yes.
all of the 5 senses. And then with Posmo, we are planning to do Melbourne-based events, like dating events and
Oh, nice.
That's so good.
and
That's
parties and things like
incredible.
that.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Wonderful. And could you tell us where we can find you on the socials and your website, where we can put things in the cart or,
Yes.
you know, order? Please do share.
Yeah, so in terms of socials, my sexology account is Laura Miano Sexology. You can follow Posmo at _Posmo_. But to book in for a session, it's mianoclinicalsexology.com.au. And to put things into the cart, it's posmo.com.au.
Wonderful.
This has been such a treat for us
I'm
to
like,
have you.
I was like, also like, I need to respect Laura's time. But
Yeah.
like, honestly, it's so great to have you just like helping to debunk a lot. And I know there's a lot we need to work through as a people, as you know, but I think you are doing the Lord's work.
Thank you.
And I think joy and pleasure should be for everybody.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
I agree.
Yeah.
The way my eyebrows went up when you said double penetration, I was like,
I was like,
I was like, no, I need to like investigate why I react like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
it's good
just
Yeah,
it's been really
wonderful.
fun.
Yeah, good.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for listening to another episode of It's Layered Podcast. And we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
Toodles.